Okay, good morning, everyone. We are sort of in the middle of Yigdal. So, we spoke last week about where Yigdal came from. It was written. Who was it written by? Lionel? Huh? Daniel Ben? Daniel Ben Yehudah dayan, correct. From 14th century Rome, probably. And he took the Rambam's 13 principles of faith and turned them into a song, which is what Yigdal is, turned them into a poem, if you like. And then, of course, we've turned the poem into various different tunes. Last week, we were treated to Frank singing about 7 or 8 different tunes, some of which we recognized, others which we didn't, but they were all connected with Yigdal. And we spoke last week about the Rambam's 13 principles of faith, because, of course, that's, as we've just said, that's what Yigdal is based on. And what we said last week was that actually Rambam was revolutionary in that he wrote down these animamins. We pointed out that generally speaking, Judaism does not have a creed. It doesn't have things that you have to believe in to be a Jew. You are a Jew because you are born of a Jewish mother, or you choose to join the Jewish faith. Being a Jew is not dependent on what you. In order to be a Jew, you don't necessarily
defined as.
To be defined as a Jew, yeah. Well, to be a Jew, you can't get away from it. If you're born to a Jewish mother, you are a Jew, whether you like it or not. Whereas other religions, Christianity particularly, in order to be a Christian, you have to believe in various things. You have to believe in Jesus being the Messiah, the resurrection, the Trinity, and all that stuff. So it was very revolutionary for the Rambam to have written down these 13 principles. And of course, as we said last week, he got flack for it. His books were burned, not by non-Jews, but by Jews. And it was very revolutionary. And I think I might have mentioned it last week. It's comparable to what Rabbi Yehudah Nasi did with the Mishnah, because the Mishnah was written down in around about, no, that's a Gemara, 500, yeah. Mishnah, 200. Mishnah was written down and edited by Rabbi Yehudah Nasi in around about 200. What was special about 200, Lionel? Or that particular era?
Don't guess.
Yeah, we were beginning to be dispersed. 130 years earlier, we'd had the Churban Beit Sheni, the destruction of the temple. 70 years or 60 odd years earlier, there had been the crushing of the Bar Kokhba rebellion, and the Jews were being dispersed throughout the Roman Empire. And so Rabbi Yehudah Nasi has a dilemma. His dilemma is this: you're not allowed to write down the oral Torah. That's a halacha. On the other hand, if he did not write it down, there wouldn't be an oral Torah to pass on. He was concerned that everybody would forget it because there wasn't this concentration of Jewish learning in this one place where there had been previously. Previously, it had been in Yerushalayim, had been the Sanhedrin, and then it went to Yavne, and then it went to
in the north.
The north, into the Galil. That's right. But Rabbi Sipori, yeah, was one of the places. Have you been to Sipori?
Yeah.
Fabulous place. Those who haven't been should go. Really, really interesting exhibitions there of Mishnaic times. Worth a visit. So he wrote it down because he was concerned that it was going to get forgotten. And that is exactly what the Rambam did. The Rambam wrote down these animamins because in his time, what was going on there? When did Rambam live?
1200?
Yeah, 1100 and something to 1200 and something. Yeah, 12th century largely. What was going on then? Who was in ascendant?
Crusades?
Yes, Jackie?
Crusades?
The Crusades were going on at that time. That is true, but he wasn't there. Where was the Rambam? Egypt. The Rambam was in Egypt, having been exiled from Spain at a young age, not by the Christians, not by the Inquisition. That hadn't yet come along. Spain was still under Muslim rule, and he went to Egypt. Thank you. So, if you think about the time we're talking about, it was a time where there was religious fervor throughout the world. Jackie is right that through Europe and coming into the Middle East, there were the Crusades. It was a time of great, inverted commas, piety of the Christians, right?
A lot of massacres. Also.
Yeah, well, they thought they were pious, but they weren't really. They were just massacring. But there was great piety. And what was going on in the Muslim world at that time? They were in ascent too, but they were in ascent in Egypt, particularly, and in the Iberian Peninsula, Turkey. So you've got, on the one hand, you've got an inroads into Judaism from the Christians, right? And on the other hand, you've got the inroad into Judaism from the Muslims, from Islam. We hadn't yet had the debacle of Shabtai Tzvi, but that was a response in the end. So the Rambam is in a position here where he's worried that, like Rabbi Yehudah Nasi 900 years earlier, he's worried that what is the core of Judaism is going to get forgotten. And so he writes it down and says, these are the 13 principles of faith. Ikarim. They are the 13 things that a Jew has to believe. And of course, he got flack for it, particularly from the Ravad and others.
Is it because what he wrote down, or he actually wrote it down? What was it?
Not because of what he wrote,
right, but
because he wrote it down. The Ravad, by the way, was very held the Rambam in very high esteem, notwithstanding the fact that he wrote polemics against him. Wasn't a personal thing. He disagreed with his methodology. I think I mentioned it last week when the Rambam wrote Mishnah Torah. It was the first time that the law had been codified. The Ravad was very much against that because he said that people are going to use this simple man's Mishnah Torah instead of going and getting out a Gemara and learning it for themselves. And that philosophy of the Ravad still exists today. So let's just finish this thought. It still exists today. For example, if you learn Gemara, okay, we learn Gemara, and how do we learn? Which Sfarim do we use?
ArtScroll.
We use ArtScroll, or we use Steinsaltz, right? And those are helping us to learn Gemara. Would we be able to learn Gemara without the help of ArtScroll or Steinsaltz? Many of us,
if you'd been to Yeshiva, yes.
Many of us would not, though, right?
Right.
And so therefore, ArtScroll, Steinsaltz, and any other Sonsino before them who translated the Gemara into foreign languages and gave a Perush an explanation on the Gemara, were providing a very, very important service. Because without it, many people would not be able to learn Gemara, okay? Because it's very hard to learn Gemara without the Perush. There's no punctuation, there's no nukudot, there's no vowels. There's lots of fill-in words that are not there that you're expected to know. And how has it been learned until Art Scroll came along and Steinsaltz came along? How was it learned? From Rebbe to Talmud. That's how it was learned, from Rebbe.
Passing on.
Right? It was passed down from one to the other. So there's no question that these explanatory Gemaras, etc., have opened up a whole new audience to Gemara that would not have been able to learn it without that help. And that's a wonderful thing. Okay. However, anybody ever here learn to ride a bike? Right? When you were little, you had them little, we used to call them stabilizer wheels. Yeah, I think American call them trainer wheels. What do they call them in Australia? Trainer wheels. In England, we call them stabilizers, right? And those little extra wheels on the back. Now, if you never take those stabilizers off, you'll never be able to ride a bike without them, right? And that is the objection that people have. Proper yeshivas, I'm not going to give any names of what I call a proper yeshiva, but in proper yeshivas, they don't allow art scrolls or Steinsaltz. You've got to learn the Gemara from what I call a big boys Gemara, okay, from the Vilna Shas. Because if you don't learn to ride it without. Now, when you get to our age, right, if you're learning Gemara for the first time at our age, right, you need the stabilizers. And the truth is, you're probably never going to be able to take the stabilizers off. In the same way as if you learn to ride a bike at our age, it's going to be very difficult if you've never ridden a bike before. So why am I going? Where is all this going from? The Raavad objected to the Rambam writing the Mishnah Torah because he said it's like having stabilizers. You've made it too easy for everybody. They're not going to go to the Gemara and they're never going to learn how to learn Gemara on their own. And that was the Raavad's objection, not to the content of Mishnah Torah. He didn't have any argument with the Rambam's content. It was the fact that he'd, inverted commas, made it too easy for people, and therefore they were not amelim b'Torah. They were not, breaking their teeth over it and learning. Yes, Hannah.
I was going to say, I'm sorry if I spoil something, but I watched this movie about the 10 Lost Tribes where he shows that he has ostensibly found all 10 of them. But the interesting thing is that each one of the groups has different characteristics that are ours and only ours. Like there's one tribe, they're all divided, they know which tribe they are. We don't, but they do. And there's one tribe who wears a tzitzit with a blue thread. And primitive peoples in Asia don't wear tzitziot. And there's another one that the kids shopple and they learn. And it struck me that none of them got a written heritage like we and all the literature that we have, which is maybe why they have lost a lot of what there was.
Okay, let me just repeat that for the recording and for the Zoomers.
Piano Sim in Spain.
Because that's absolutely right. If you don't have, and that was Rabbi Yehudah's dilemma and the Rambam's dilemma, I guess, if you don't write it down, it is going to get lost. A large bits of it are going to get lost, and therefore you're going to get all sorts of different Chinese whispers about what you meant to do. Where Yigdal then came along and put to poetry what the Rambam had written, and I think we'd got to about the fourth line of Yigdal. Kadmon l'chol davar, I think we're up to. Yes, Jackie.
Johnny, can I say something? It's funny though, in the 13 principles of faith, the Shabbos is not mentioned, because I was always taught the Shabbos is not mentioned.
Can't hear you, Jackie.
The Shabbos isn't mentioned. Hello?
Right. Let's go on to Kadmon L'chol Davar, number 4. Okay. Kadmon L'chol Davar. What does that mean? Kadmon.
First.
Okay. What is Kedem apart from a wine that is made in New York? East. Kedem is east. Kedem means east, right? Yeah. Yama vakedma, west and east. Well, another word for east? Mizrach. Okay, Mizrach. Okay, we're going to have a look at both of those words in a minute. Kadmon l'chol davar. Hang on, just turn that on to silent because he's definitely going to ring again. Right, there we go. Right, so why is Kedem east? What?
First, it means first.
Kedem also means first. That's right here. Kadmon l'chol davar. He is first of all things. But why is Kedem first if it's east?
Because that's the first.
Because what, Lionel?
You pray it.
What started in the east?
Sun rising.
The sun rises in the east.
And you pray for
Right?
the east.
The sun rises in the east, and so the sun first appears in the east. So Kedem, east. I'm not sure whether Kedem is east because it's first, or Kedem is first because Kedem is east. In other words, I'm not sure which way around it is. But Kedem is east, and it means the first because that is where the sun, first shows itself in the east. What's the other word for east?
Mizrach.
Mizrach. What's the root of that word?
Bye.
Zericha, zerech, right? Sun shines. Hashemesh zorachat, the sun shines. So Mizrach, the root of the word Mizrach is from shining. So east is where the sun first shines. So Mizrach and Kedem are the same thing. So Kedem is first. Yeah, Kedem is first. By the way, let's just have a look at west. 2 words for west as well.
Ma'arav.
Ma'arav. Okay, why Ma'arav is west? Because Erev is the evening, and
That's where the
the
sun
evening
sets.
in the evening, where is the sun? In the west.
Yeah.
Because it's setting in the west. Okay, so that's Ma'arav is west. Another word for west? Yama. What's Yama?
Towards the sea.
Towards the sea. If you are in Eretz Israel and you look towards the sea, which way are you looking?
West.
West.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's why there are 2 words for west, one referring to the sun, the other referring to the sea. Yes, Hannah.
Also, if you're in Israel and you go forward, you go east. There's another explanation for Kedma. Yeah.
That's which way you're pointing.
When you go forward,
When you go forward, you say Kadima. That's right.
When the tribes moved out of Egypt and when they brought Yaakov's body back, the first tribes that were allocated were the ones that go first, and they're on the eastern side.
Does it say Kedma Yisrael or something like that?
It says Yehudah is first, and he's on the east.
Well, it was in this week's. Yeah, it's in last week's parsha, wasn't it? How the formation. But which way you go depends which way you're pointing. I mean, if you look at the way they went in the Midbar, they went all over the place. First of all, they went north, then they went east, then they went south, then they went back again.
And the 2 tribes with him were put first on the east side.
Okay, first on the east side. That is true. That is true. And the other thing is, if you are a very important person, where do you sit in shul? Mizrach Vant. What does Mizrach Vant mean? What's a Vant? A wall. Mizrach Vant, you sit on the western wall, right? So the eastern wall. The eastern wall. In the what?
In China.
In China. I've never been to China. I doubt it. Where in Australia, where you come from, where do people sit? They sit in the east? Why? They're pointing the wrong way. Australia is east of Eretz Israel. You should be facing west. Well, they do in Perth. The Aron HaKodesh is facing is on the west, is facing west towards Yerushalayim, well, towards Eretz Israel. And when you say you're Shmona Esra and you're in Chutz La'aretz, where do you face? We face east in the west, but if you're in the east, you should be facing west. Anyway, there you go. By the way, where do you face in Eretz Israel?
To Yerushalayim.
To Yerushalayim. So here we should be facing what? Southeast, right?
East, yeah.
Up in the north where I was last Shabbat, everybody's just facing south, right? Because they're in the north of the country. Okay, so that's a bit of geography. Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra. He is the first before everything. Now that fits in with what we said earlier on, isn't it? That with the idea that Hashem was created, Hashem was before all creation and will be at the end of all creation. We talked about that with Adon Olam, didn't we? There's big parallels, of course, between Yigdal and Adon Olam. Now let's have a look at the fourth principle of faith of the Rambam. Okay, well, let's just finish this line first. Kadmon l'chol davar asher nivra. He is first before anything that was created. Rishon, he is the first. Ein reshit l'reshito.
And there's no first his firstness.
Yeah, it's a strange expression. There is no beginning to his beginning. There is no beginning to his beginning, which means he is, in one word,
immortal.
Well, immortal means he can't be killed. Infinite, yes, he is infinite, right? Because infinity doesn't have a beginning and an end, right? So this is just another way of saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu is infinite. Let's have a look, therefore, at the fourth principle of faith of the Rambam. I'll read it out to you. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema. I believe with complete faith. Shehaboreh yitbarach shemo. That the Creator, blessed be His name, who Rishon, he is the first, but who Acharon, and he is the last. So you can see how verse 4 fits with the fourth Ani ma'amin. Lionel's got a scowl. He is the first. Okay, so Lionel has
That's a very good point.
Lionel, ever the scientist, of course. By the way, those who didn't know, Lionel was a science teacher back in the day. His experiments were renowned, weren't they, Lionel? Yeah, they were renowned. Anyway, Lionel says if he was first, then he can't be infinite because you can't have a first.
Yeah.
And in fact, that's what Yigdal says, isn't it? Yigdal says, Ein reshit l'reshito. But again, this shows us the limitations that we have in describing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Remember, we spoke about the end of the bracha of Baruch She'amar. What did we say? Baruch atah Hashem, melech muhulal v'tishbachot. You are the God who is praised with praises, because we've no other way of doing it. Really, we've no right to praise HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because by definition, a praise is limited, right? If you say that Philip is good looking, right? Right? If, I'm not only saying if, right? If you were to say, you praise Philip by saying Philip is good looking, and you haven't said Philip is intelligent, right? You might think that he is only good looking and not intelligent. So you, by praising a person or a thing or a being or a Kadosh Baruch Hu, by definition, it is limiting. And so in a way, we have no right to praise the Kadosh Baruch Hu because by definition, we're limiting it. But we've no choice because that's the only way we human beings can do it. So Lionel is a right, of course, that what the Rambam has written is limiting by saying he is Rishon and Acharon. But the concept of him being first and last is as close as we can get to the concept of infinity. And maybe that's why he's said what he said, Lionel. Maybe he had the same problems as you and didn't like 100% what the Rambam had written because it was limiting. And so he said, oh, before Lionel gets to complain, Ein Reshit L'Reshito. Right? So he's giving you your answer to your complaint about the Rambam. Okay? So that's very helpful. Right, let's move on to number 5 in Yigdal. Hino, behold, Adon Olam. He is the master of the universe. L'chol notzar. To every notzar.
What Yitzur that was created.
Every creation. Yeah. You will see on food packages, or not even necessarily food packages, but packages in Israel, you'll see the word Yitzur Eretz Israel, or more likely you might more likely to say Sin, China, right? Created in China, made in China. Notzar is to create. So Hinei Adon Olam L'chol Notzar. He is the master of the universe to all creations. Okay? All creations. Yoreh Gedulato. Yoreh. What does Yoreh mean?
Shows.
Shows. What's the root of that word? What word do you know?
To look.
Right. It's got an aleph in it.
Showing the teach.
Very good. What word do we know we use a million times? That's the root of that word. Yoreh Gedulato.
Fear.
Try putting a taf in front of it.
Torah.
Torah. The word Torah is from the word, is from the verb lahorot, to teach. What is a teacher in Hebrew?
Moreh.
Moreh. Or if you're a female, morah. Okay. Teacher, because they are doing the teaching. Torah is the word Torah, the root of the word Torah. It's not law. You know, we could think of the Torah as the law, right? The giving of the law. Kabbalat Torah, the receiving of the law. We did receive the law, but that's not what the word Torah means. Torah means teaching.
Yeah.
Teachings. So, Yoreh, Gedulato, his greatness, Umalchuto.
And his kingship.
And his kingship. Okay. Now, let's have a look at number 5 in the Ani Mamids. Ani Mamim Emunah Shlema. I believe with complete faith. Shahaboreh Yit Barach Shemo. The creator, blessed be his name. Lo, with a vav. Lo, to him, levado, alone. Ra'ui lehit palel.
Is it worthwhile praying?
Is it fitting to pray?
Yeah.
Okay, it is only fitting to pray. Lehit palel, lazitting to pray. Lazulato, to any being else. Okay, so how does that fit with number 5 in the Yigdal? How does that fit? It doesn't really, does it? You would expect Yigdal to have something about praying there, but it doesn't. It only has something about teaching us his greatness, or showing us his greatness. He's the master of the universe to every creature. He reveals his greatness and his kingship. So how do we square that, Lionel? How do we square the fact that that doesn't actually quite fit? Only God is worthy of worship, because God alone is the creator, and therefore worship only belongs to him. That's how the Mefarshim fix that up, to say that because we have been shown how great his greatness and his kingship, that only he is worthy of the worship that a king and with his greatness. So it's a bit of a stretch, if you ask me that. If I had been Daniel ben Yehudah Dayan, I'm not sure I would have written that that verse the way that verse is. I would have written something about prayer because the fifth animamim is about prayer. There's a little bit of a question mark, but the Mefarshim that I looked up say that because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the only one whose greatness and his kingship is at the level that it is, that only he is fitting to pray to, and therefore it's one is a corollary of the other. Okay, we go back to number 6, we get back on track. So number 5 is a little bit of a stretch, but on number 6, we get right back on track. Let's have a look at the next line. Shefa nevuato. What's shefa, apart from a shop?
Shefa is
Shefa is a shop in Manchester that sells
plenty.
Abundance.
Yeah.
Shefa means plentiness, plentifulness.
Bounty.
Bounty. Yeah.
Shefa means bounty, plentifulness, if that's a word. Shefa nevuato. His prophecy, his nevuah, is bountiful. Netano, he gave it. He gave bountiful prophecy. Who to? Who did he give bountiful prophecy to?
The Jewish people.
Well, which particular
Prophets.
Moses.
The prophets.
Yeah, to the prophets. He gave prophecy to the prophets. And who were they prophesying to? Us. Anshe Segulato. We are the men. Anshe, the men of Segula. What is Segula? Choice, yeah. Segula means a choice. We are known as Segula, the chosen people.
Chosen people.
Right? The people. Which has caused us a right load of trouble over the...
As my son was told by his headmaster in non-Jewish school, you might be the chosen people outside this school, but inside the school you are not the chosen.
Yeah, inside the school you're not the chosen people. You know, we're chosen for chosen to be
Taurus.
Careful to be bullied.
yeah.
Yehudah Levi would disagree with that.
With which point would Yehudah Levi disagree?
The Kuzari says that Am Yisrael are all prophets. He says that there are 5 classifications of creation. There's domain, there's plants, there's animals, there's man, and then there's Jews.
Yes.
And Jews are above the average population because they've been granted prophecy.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that concept and uncomfortable with it personally. However, it is certainly something which is recognized and certainly is something, I'll just mention it, what Hannah says in case you didn't hear. Hannah's quoting the Kuzari, Rabbi Yehudah Levi, who says that the Jews are actually, all the Jews are prophets, and they are a higher level of being than the non-Jews. I personally am uncomfortable with that concept because I believe that we are all B'Tselem Elohim, and it depends on how we behave as to whether we reach a particular level. And I think that you can have a non-Jew who can reach the level, a higher level, and I think you can have Jews who fail to reach that level. So I don't think it's a necessary. Personally, that's my own view. Let's not get sidetracked into
Johnny,
that.
can I just say one thing?
Jackie, what did you say?
Can I say that I find it very strange that in all this, the Almighty gave us the Shabbos. This is not mentioned. Shabbos is not mentioned at all. It's the greatest thing He gave us was the Shabbos. Yet the Shabbos is not mentioned.
What's Shabbos got to do with anything?
Well, it's the greatest gift from God to the
So
Jewish people.
we're not talking about what He gave us. We're talking here about what we have to believe in our principles. We don't have to believe that He gave us Shabbos. No, well, we do, but
No, but I mean, we keep Shabbos. It keeps the Jewish people together.
but that's a different. That's we're not talking about that. We're
Okay.
talking about what a Jew has to believe, not what about a Jew has to do. That's a whole different thing. Let's just go on and finish this number 6.
Sorry.
He gave an abundance of prophecy to His treasured and glorious people. Let's look at number 6 in the Ani Ma'amins. Very clear. Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema, I believe with complete faith, shekol divrei neviim emet, that all the words of the prophets are absolutely true. So that fits. It's talking about nevuah. We're talking about the prophecy. Now that is a fundamental belief of Judaism, that the prophets were speaking the word of God. Okay, when we say prophets here, what are we talking about? We're talking about what we would, we would talk about what we would call the Nevi'im Rishonim. Okay, the early prophets, the later Nevi'im Achronim, the later prophets. As Lionel says, the book of prophets. Who was the last prophet? Malachi. Okay, after Malachi, prophecy, which is what we're talking about here, which is that, I suppose you'd say, that connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ended with Malachi. Malachi was the last prophet. When did Malachi live?
About 200 BCE. Earlier than that?
Earlier than that.
Earlier.
He lived at the beginning of the Second Temple era. Second Temple was beginning of around about 510, something like that, depending on which counting you go by. Malachi was the last of the prophets, early Second Temple era. After that, there was no prophecy.
Was he the last person to speak to God?
I'm not sure whether you would say the prophets spoke to God. The last Nevi'im, he was the last of the Nevi'im to receive a prophecy from God. Now, that's not to say that we don't all get messages from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but there's if you like, a definition of Nevuah, which ended with Malachi. Okay, so that's what it's referring to here. When it says, when the Rambam says, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shlema shekol divrei neviim emet, we're talking about the Nevi'im of the book of Nevi'im. Okay, we're not talking about somebody who comes along and says, I've had a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we should all do this, that, or the other. Right? He may well have had a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but that does not make him a Novi. Okay? A Novi, by the way, we translate it in English as a prophet. But it's difficult, that, because prophecy in English implies seeing the future, right? I prophesy that, such and thing will happen tomorrow, right? That's seeing the future. That's not quite what Nevuah in Judaism is. Nevuah is a message from HaKadosh Baruch Hu to tell the people what
to do
might happen if they don't do certain things, right? Who was the only prophet in history, in Jewish history, who was successful?
Jeremiah?
No.
Jonah was the only one who succeeded in getting the people to do complete and utter tshuva. And which people was that? Nineveh, right?
Nineveh.
Okay. Every other prophet has come along and said, if you don't do X, Y is going to happen, right? And did they do X? Not generally. Generally speaking, not. No. Isaiah was prophesying about the destruction of the first temple. If you don't behave yourself, you're going to get the first temple destroyed, and it was.
The one with the bones.
Yes, Ezekiel.
What about him? He was.
What about him?
Wait.
Who brought them back to life? And
that's thanks to him.
No, not thanks to him. Through him. He was the one that spoke it. Right. Okay. Anyway, that's what Nevuah is. So you've got to believe in the Nevi'im. Right. Number 7. Now, since we're talking about Nevi'im, prophets, who is the father of all prophets? Moshe Rabbeinu. Okay. He is the right. Now,
what's he doing here?
Number 7. Lo kam b'Yisrael. There will never arise in Israel ke Moshe od.
As Moses still.
Another Moses. There will never arise in Israel anybody ka Moshe, like Moshe. Navi umabit et tmunato. The prophet, Navi, he was a prophet. Mabit, what does mabit mean?
Looks.
Yeah,
You
who
saw?
looks tmunato at the full picture, as it were. Okay, so Yigdal says there was no prophet ever arose in like Moshe who could see what he could see.
You got the clearest prophecy. He's the only one. No filter.
Robert says he was the only one that had clear vision. More than that, even. You're right, of course, but more than that,
He saw the
HaKadosh Baruch Hu
Almighty
says to, I'm going to ask you to whom he said this. To whom did he say? HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, Moshe is like no other person. I speak to him face to face. Miriam and Aaron. Very good, Lionel. In what circumstance?
Up against him.
In which parsha?
Aloha.
Huh?
Aloha.
Balota.
Yeah, quick.
Okay. And what was the circumstances? They spoke against Moshe. They spoke Lashon Hara against Moshe, Aaron and Miriam. Miriam got sick. She was made tsaras. She was made into whatever tsaras is. And Moshe prayed for her. What did he say? God, please heal her. Very simple prayer. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I don't know, he says to Aaron and Moshe, I don't know how you could, Aaron and Miriam, how could you speak like that about your brother? How could you speak like that? Moshe is not like anybody else. He, Avdi Moshe, he is my servant Moshe, and I speak to him, panim el panim, face to face. And what do we say at the end of Sefer Dvarim after Moshe died? Lo kama Yisrael. There will never be
There's
another
never been one like him.
Moshe. There will never be another Moshe. And that is what Yigdal is saying in number 7. Let's have a look at number 7 in the Ani Ma'amit. Ani Ma'amin be'emunah shlema she'nevuat Moshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom. I believe with complete faith that the prophecy of Moshe Rabbeinu, peace be upon him, Haita amitit, was true. V'shehu haya av l'neviim. He was the father of all prophets. L'kodmim lefanav v'laba'im acharav. From those who went before him, even greater than the prophets before him. Who was the prophets before him? I suppose you'd have to say Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, although they're not described as prophets. They're never described as prophets, but I think that must be what it means. V'laba'im acharav, and those that came after him, obviously the later prophets. But the Rambam is telling us that Moshe Rabbeinu was the greatest of all prophets, and Yigdal says the same thing. By the way, there is another expression with Moshe Rabbeinu and the Rambam. What do we say?
Moshe, lo kam to Moshe.
Mi Moshe le Moshe, from Moshe to Moshe, lo kam k'Moshe. There was never another Moshe. What's that talking about? From Moshe to Moshe, there was never a Moshe. What does that mean?
Moshe Rabbeinu to Moshe.
Yeah, from Moshe Rabbeinu to Moshe ben Maimon. That's the Rambam. Rambam, what does Rambam stand for?
Rabbi Moshe ben
Rebbe Moshe ben Maimon. Rambam. Okay? So, mi Moshe ad Moshe, from Moshe to Moshe, from Moshe Rabbeinu to Moshe ben Maimon, lo kam k'Moshe, there was never another Moshe. In other words, the Rambam was a great person. That's really what that means. But here we're talking about Moshe Rabbeinu, and he is the daddy of all prophets. Okay, now,
Johnny,
next one. Yes.
when it says you never saw God's image, this refers to the fact that on the burning bush he did see his back.
Sorry, you broke up there, Jackie. Say it again.
I said, at the burning bush, he saw God's back. God was
At the burning bush, he saw his back.
Yes.
No,
God's
No, he
image.
didn't.
in the rock.
In the rock, he saw his back.
I saw
In the
the
rock.
burning bush.
Not in the bush. At the bush, it was a bush. It was a burning bush. Yeah, in the rock, Kadosh Baruch Moshe says, "Hareini na'et kvodecha." Show me your glory. I want to see what what did he mean by that? By the way, what did he mean when he said, "Show me your glory" to Kadosh Baruch Hu? What was it? What did he want to know? Tzadik v'ralo, v'rasha v'tovlo. That's what the Mefarshim say. Rabbeinu asked for when he said to God, "Show me your way." Show me your ways, show me your glory. In other words, I want to understand, I can't grasp this concept of tzaddik v'ralo. How can you have a good person that bad things happen to him? And how can you have a rasha v'tovlo? How can you have a good person that bad things happen to him? Farshim say that is what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to know from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you can never see my face. In other words, a human being cannot understand the ways of God. He says, the best I can do for you is I'll put you in a little nook in the rock, and I'll put my hand over you, and I will walk by, and I'll take my hand away, and you will see
My back.
achorai. You will see my back. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, if you think about obviously this is all Lashon B'nei Adam. This is all about us trying to understand this in human terms, because if you go right to the beginning of Yigdal, what do we say? Ein lo guf ve'ein lo dmut haguf. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't have a back, he doesn't have a front, he doesn't have a hand, he doesn't have any of those. Doesn't have any of those things that we just spoke about that he did to Moshe. We're talking obviously anthropomorphologically, right? Right. That means putting a human body, as it were, on God, right? Even though he doesn't have a human, it's the only way we can understand it, right?
Word again.
No, I don't think I could say it again. Okay, so once let me just finish this thought. So Kadosh Baruch Hu says, "You can see my back. That's the best I can do for you." Now, when you see somebody's back, what do you get? You get an impression of the person, right? You don't get to see them clearly. You don't get to see their features clearly. If you only see their back, you don't get to see their facial features clearly. If I see Lionel walking down the street from behind, I know it's Lionel because I know that's the way Lionel walks and that's the way he looks from behind. But I don't get the full picture of Lionel's face, right? So that's what Kadosh Baruch Hu is saying. You can get an idea of my workings, but you can never see my face. You can never understand. And that was Moshe Rabbeinu, who was the greatest person that ever lived. We've just said he was the daddy of all prophets. And even he could only get, if you like, a schmeck of what really HaKadosh Baruch Hu is all about. How did we get onto that?
There is a thing,
no idea.
I've got your back.
I've got your back. I'll tell you. We'll come to that in a sec. Lionel.
The same thing.
No conversation with God. That's something a lot.
Okay, so Lionel says Avram had a conversation with God about Sodom and Amorah, about Sodom and Gomorrah. He did, but it doesn't say that he saw God face to face. He spoke to him, but he's talking about speaking. Oh, God, no, he says, Hareini, show me. Hareini na, show me. If I'm on the phone with you, Lionel, I can't see your face unless I'm on WhatsApp. Right?
No one else. Speak that.
Panim el panim. Yeah, there was nobody else that spoke panim el panim. That means, yeah, you're right. It's a good question. I don't know. It's a good question. Lionel says that Avinu did speak face to face because he had a whole conversation about Sodom and Amorah. There must be some kind of difference there between the two. We'll have to think about it. Okay, that's homework for everybody next week, right? No cheating, no chat GPT, right? Look it up somewhere else. Look at the Mefarshim. Let's see if we can find an answer. That's a very, very good question. Kadosh Baruch Hu says, nobody else has spoken to me face to face, but Avraham Avinu did speak to him face to face. Good question.
I've got your back.
Yes, I've got your back. Johnny says, what does it mean? I've got your back.
Yeah.
You can rely on me. It means you can rely on me. I've got your back. Well,
me supporting this candidate.
yeah, to back you.
If I'm standing behind you, if I've got your back or I'm backing you, you're
Yeah.
not the first one to get hit.
Yeah, I've got
the
your
second
back.
one.
I mean, yeah, I'm supporting it. I don't know. Okay, there's another piece of homework. There's an English expression. Trying to understand it. All right, let's see if we can finish off the 13 today. Number 9, right? No, number 8, I think. Torat emet natan le'amoel al yad nevio ne'eman beito. Torat emet, a Torah of truth. Natan, he gave. Le'amo, to his people. Al yad nevio ne'eman beito. Al yad, through the hand of
Yeah.
nevio, his prophet. Ne'eman beito, who was called. What Ne'eman mean? Faithful.
Yeah.
Beito,
House.
of his house. Who was called
This one.
the faithful of God's house? Who do you think would have been called the faithful one of his house?
Eliezer?
Eliezer
Yeah.
Russia.
of God's house.
Yeah. He took care of Abraham's household and
Abraham's household, God's
God's
household.
With a
but
couple of
Abraham's
blades.
household
He
on
was-
earth was God's house.
You're right. That Eliezer was Ne'eman Beito in terms of Avraham Avinu, but that's not what we're talking about. Avraham Avinu didn't give the Torah to his people.
Okay.
God did. And who is called Ne'eman Beito, the faithful one of God's house? Moses, Moshe Rabbeinu. Thank you. Right. Right. Look at number 8 in the Ani Ma'amins. Ani Ma'amin B'Emunah Shlema. I believe in complete faith. Shekola Torah HaMetzuya Ata B'Yadeinu. I believe with complete faith that the entire Torah that we have today, B'Yadeinu, in our hands, He hanatuna leMoshe Rabbeinu alav hashalom. That is the same Torah that was given to Moshe Rabbeinu, peace be upon him. In other words,
And the Dead Sea Scrolls prove it.
the Dead Sea Scrolls prove that the Torah 2,000 years ago was very similar to the one we have now. That's all it proves. It doesn't prove that that was the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu gave. That is because if it did prove it, what?
Our Torah's not right.
No, if it did prove it, let's say they were exactly the same.
Oh.
There are slight differences in the V'im. What would, if it proved it, as Hannah said that the Dead Sea Scrolls proves that the Torah that we have today is the Torah that Moshe got. If that was proved by the Dead Sea Scrolls or anything else, then what?
True.
Correct, it's true, and therefore what? And therefore it's not a belief, it's not a faith. If you prove something, you no longer have to have faith in it. That is the point about faith. Faith is something which cannot be proven, because once you prove it, it's no longer, you don't need to have faith. It's proven, right? If I say to you, right, do you have faith that I have a phone in my hand? You would say, I can see the phone in your hand.
If I remember my science class, Lionel will tell you, being a science teacher, that you can never prove anything.
Okay, all right, yeah, we're
You
not.
can only disprove.
Okay, so
Because the next time you go to check, it might be different.
you're right. You can't prove anything, especially today, because you can have manipulate things. But that's just in sensible terms. You don't have to believe that I'm holding a phone, right? Because you can see it.
Are you all right? Okay, I'll phone you back in a minute. Bye.
Either yes, I believe you because I have faith that you will be telling the truth.
Where's it gone?
That is a
There's something crush about it.
the question there, of course, is that we don't know, and neither did Moshe Rabbeinu. We can't do that, but we have to believe it. Again, it's part of the belief system. It's part of the belief system. It's an ani ma'amin. Let's have a look at it. Number 11. Ani ma'amin b'emunah shleima shehaborei barach shemo, that the Creator gomel tov l'shomrei mitzvot, will give goodness to those who keep his mitzvahs, uma'anish, and will punish those who transgress his mitzvahs. Doesn't mean in this world necessarily, Jonathan.
Oh, I'm thinking it now.
Okay, so that's one of the answers given, is that those that get their reward here will, you're in. So it's a bit like you're entitled to a reward. right? I don't know, let's put it 100 shekels for doing something. You can either have it now, or you can have it later on. You get it now, you get it in this world. If you don't use up credit in this world, you get it in the next world. That's one of our belief things. And that's why it's in the Emunah and Animamin. Because what Hannah said earlier on about proof, if you could prove it, if it was absolutely clear and crystal clear that when you did a mitzvah in this world, you got a reward, bing, you get right. And if you're doing a Avera, you get a thunderbolt from heaven, right? Well, that's not belief, right? You'd have to be an idiot not to do it. Pavlov's dog would stop doing Averas if you kept giving him electric shocks every time he did an Avera, right? So, no, it's a very important point.
We say both dynamic.
Yeah, we have to believe that. And since we're talking about belief of the Amunah of Animamin, I believe with complete faith. That is the point of Emunah. And the point that Hannah raised about being, once it's proven, it's no longer faith, right? Who believes that man stepped on the moon in 1969?
You've got the footprint.
So, have you been there? Have you seen the footprint?
No, but see, photos of it. You've seen photos of it.
Yeah, there are people, my son being one of them, right, who believe complete faith that it was a big con.
Which
right?
one, Bobby?
No, Hoodie.
There's a film called Capital One that says it all.
Brother says it was there was a con.
Yeah, it's a very good film.
And there are various things like the flag moving and all sorts of things that are quite compelling, right? I actually believe, I wouldn't say I believe with complete faith because I don't know, but we believe, don't we, that it happened? But it's a belief, it's not proven, and that's the point. And these things about our relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, once it's proven, it's no longer got the same value as our faith. Number 12, Yishlach leketz yamin mishichenu lifdot machake ketz yeshuato. Yishlach, he will send leketz yamin
At the end of
time, Mashichenu, our Messiah. Lifdot, to redeem, machake ketz, those who await the end, Yeshuato, of his salvation. What's that talking about? The coming of Mashiach. Let's have a look at number 12 in here. I believe with complete faith in the coming of Mashiach. Even though he delays, nevertheless, I believe that he will come. Every day I believe that he's going to come. That's number 12. I believe in Mashiach. Now, that's pretty controversial, by the way, that the Rambam put that in as an Emunah Shalema.
But he didn't put in another one.
Okay, we've not finished. Now, let's do the last one, because this is also controversial. Right, let's have a look at the last one in Yigdal. Meitim yechaya el barov chasto. Meitim. Resurrect. Yechaya, from the word chai. You'll make them live again. Barov chasto. In his great kindness. Baruch adei ad shem tilato. Blessed be his name forever. That's the ultimate Techiyat Ameitim, right? We in modern days have emulated HaKadosh Baruch Hu in many things. We've been able to create babies from test tubes. We've been able to do all sorts of things that in previous generations were thought to only be the realm of God. The one thing that we have yet, maybe not the one thing, but a major thing that we human beings have not yet been able to emulate God is
resurrection.
Techiyat
But
Ameitim.
it's nowhere in the Torah, is it?
That wasn't Elisha doing it. That was a nace from a Kodesh Baruch Hu.
All right, Eliyahu.
And Eliyahu, same again. This is not about, this Tchiyat HaMeitim is not about somebody who has a cardiac arrest, can you give them, defib and CPR. This is about proper Tchiyat HaMeitim. He's dead, he's 6 foot under, he's decomposed, and he comes back to life. This is, we're not there yet.
That's real faith, isn't it?
That's real faith. One second, let's just finish the animami. What's the last animami?
Your vocabulary in one thing. We can do a lot of things like grow babies in test tubes, but we haven't yet been able to yesh munayin. We haven't created anything.
We haven't created from nothing.
Yatzalnu.
That's
We've
true.
molded something.
Yeah, that's true, but we're pretty close to it with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. אני מאמין באמונה שלמה שתהיה תחיית המתים בעת שיעלה רצון מאת הבורא יתברך שמו. At a time of God's choosing, there will be resurrection of the dead. Those are the 13 principles of faith. We're meant to say them every day. Yigdal is in the Siddur, right at the beginning. Have a look in your Siddur. It's before brachot. You're meant to say it.
You know what?
Every morning.
Every morning, but I don't give it a thought.
Well, there you
To be
go.
honest with you.
And I hope that you will give it a thought
Oh,
tomorrow.
yeah.
Right? You say it every morning. You're meant to say it before davening. We say it at the end of davening on a Friday night. By the way, you weren't here, Jonathan, but those of you that are here on Shabbos, I gave him another drosha on Shabbos morning about sitting still for Adon Olam and singing it. Not one person moved off their chair. How long it lasts, I don't know, because they needed a booster. I did it just for your information, Robert. I did it about 18 months, 2 years ago, because they're all out the door. And I noticed last week that during Yigdal, there was like about 4 people left. So I decided that this week I was going to give them a booster drosha. And kol hakavod to them, they all sat in their places and sang Adon Olam. So we'll see what happens this week. See how long it lasts, how long the booster lasts.
Thank you. What's the name of the
Can
whole
you put it up in the kitchen?
Stack Adon.
Give me a lift.
Yeah.
This past week,
What?
Parsha with Yehudah.
Talking to me?
No, don't do it.
Then Cademan was rough.
Ah.
So not to Yehudah.
Yeah, Cade Mine is right, so it's going east.
Right.
East. West.
And you.
No, Cade Mine,
First day.
east, yeah.
And here.
Can you give me that next, please?
Sit out there.
Thank you.
I wrote up a terrible Cademan is rough.
Yeah, it's facing east.
Somewhere I think there's an end of Himalaya that has it also, but I can't remember where.
You'll come
Very good.
I've got an appointment.
See,
We're giving
who are you?
now.
What's your
You
Robert
busy or
Yeah.
yeah, about 1-ish, just before one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought they called you a rabbi.
You did that today.
Robert, he took a leave. I think he said Robert. Easy Smith, I'll take it.
Thanks, Johnny. Go.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Come on.
Dreams never dreamed. Mother's promised. Mother's promised. That's what we need.
Think about your Shabbos mornings too, taking the towels off at the end.
Yeah.
Guilted me. You succeeded.
Good, good. Wow. Wow.
It is a well.
Johnny,
I think you'll also be interested in it. What Mr. Briot in this country is capable of.
I know. They are amazing with these kind of kids. Best in the world.
what happened?
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about giving babies vaccinations that you know are no good.
Well, that's a bold statement.
Read the book.
Johnny, can you close up in the kitchen?
Yeah. You think that the Misrad Abriot give